Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio. How on earth are you doing? Do you know what? When we asked about what shows you want to hear in the future, most of the feedback was more of the Q&A shows. Well, that is exactly what we've got today. Tom, hello.
Hello. I suppose I can take a little bit of credit for that. I guess that'll be nice for my ego. People want to hear my voice more often.
Mate, take all the credit.
No, that would be big headed. I'll just take like 80% of the credit.
Okay. I am feeling great today because I've just come back from Italy, and I don't know if you've ever travelled to Italy, but the landscape, the food, the pace of life is just absolutely brilliant. If you've never been to Italy before, do it. We flew into Rome, we hired a car, we drove down the Amalfi Coast the wrong way, so it took me 6 hours instead of 3.5, which wasn't cool. But then we went like all around the Amalfi Coast. We stayed in like little Airbnbs, ate loads of pizza. Yeah, Tom, have you ever been to Rome?
No, I was saying this to Em the other day, and my girlfriend. We just haven't utilized Europe at all. Like, there's so much cool stuff to see and do, and so many cool places to go in Europe. And I've been to like France and a couple of Mediterranean islands, and that's it. Like, I've done no Europe.
Mm. The thing about Europe is if you go to the right places, the food is just so nice and so simple. And for people that are into health and fitness, I think that's a great thing because like you go to Italy. Like a pizza's super basic in Italy, like it's super flavoursome. You know, it's not like an American or an English pizza. You know, the pasta is like when I cook pasta at home, like I can't get anywhere close to how an Italian does it. When you have like fresh ravioli in Italy, it's just incredible. You just can't do it at home. Like the perfect al dente-ness, the filling. You know, the ricotta's come from like half a mile down the road by a little local farmer. Yeah, I love it. Real big fan of Italian food. I've been skiing the last 3 seasons in Italy, and I kind of fell in love with the food. And this year we were like, all right, well, let's go and have a look at the kind of sort of almost the mainland. So yeah, anyway, great place. Highly recommended.
Awesome, awesome.
So yeah, we've got a load of questions today. Tom, you want to send a little shout out to a group of people, don't you?
Yeah. So, back in the background, obviously I run the BTNacademy for the most part, and that involves delivering and then marking the exams. So for the last sort of 4.5 weeks, I've spent the majority of my time marking the exams from the May 18 intake from our BTN Practical Academy. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the students because honestly, like every exam that I read, like people had done really well, like they put all the effort in. And I think it's always incredible to see people who've gone through like a learning journey, I suppose. And it's cool to just read their exams as an examiner because it means I'm in the privileged position of seeing just how much people have learned. And it does give us a really big sense of satisfaction to see that these people who we've worked with over the last 12 months have taken so much from the course. Like, they're going to be some really, really good coaches in that intake. And yeah, I'm not going to again take all of the credit or anything because I think the amount that you learn and the amount that you take away is on the shoulders of the person that's learning as much as it is on the shoulders of the people delivering the course. But yeah, they've done brilliant, and I just want to give a shout out. So well done, everyone. Done yourself proud.
100%. Well done from me as well. And it's amazing the amount of people that you and me, Tom, speak to when we're kind of conversing with people on social media and people are asking questions because you know our BTM Practical Academy, which is a year-long nutrition course, like it's a significant time investment. Like it's a long journey, and I think when most of us think back to our experiences of school or maybe university or doing some kind of courses, like you quite often have this horrible pressure of like, right, I've now got a 2 or 3 year course ahead of us. You know, let's even think back to A levels. Like you've got to do all of this studying, then you get one shot on an exam, and then boom, like you get a mark, A, B, C, D, whatever it is. And the nice thing about kind of courses like ours and almost just being an adult is you get the opportunity to just keep getting better. So a lot of people in the BTN Academy kind of panic. They're like, oh, well, you know, what if I don't get the best mark first time round? What if I, you know, fail? And we're like, that's fine. Like, do an exam, and let's say you got 65% and you didn't pass. What we'll do is we'll give you some feedback. We'll tell you where to go and learn and where to brush up, and then you can resit the exam. We'll remark it, and you can then, get hopefully 70, 75, 80, 85%. And, quite often we look at failure because I think maybe when we were in school, like, there was such a narrow margin of success. Like, I remember back to my A levels, like, I had 3 weeks to study. You took your exams. If you fucked it up, you fucked it up. Like, the reality is you really didn't get many second chances. But it's not school anymore. And, an exam or a course that you do, you should have the opportunity to, fail in a compassionate way, in a safe environment, and then have the opportunity to kind of learn or go back over what you didn't quite get right and become better. And we'll do that all the time on our courses. We'll take people through steps of learning that they need to kind of just go back to and master, because the thing that we want to do is we want to make people the best coach possible. We're not here to define your level of intelligence or ability with a number. We're here to make you the best coach possible. That's it. So we're not really interested whether you get 60, 70, 80%. We want you to get as much as possible, but we want you to be able to apply the information, to understand where you might need to learn and go over and stuff. And I just think that's really important to kind of understand when you kind of look to the future of your own learning. Failure is an opportunity to be better. And if you're working with the right kind of companies and the right kind of courses, they should be compassionately helping you towards being the best version of yourself, rather than just saying, oh, yeah, you got 65%, you failed, see you later.
Yeah, I suppose to quickly sort of consolidate that before we get to some questions, like, I guess the purpose of school, for better or for worse, is to define how intelligent you are, more or less. It's to cram a bunch of information at you and then see if you can regurgitate that. And if you can regurgitate it really well, then you get a good mark and happy days. But our mission is not to define people's intelligence. Our mission is not to just get people in the course, get them through it, and then send them on their way, see what result they get. It's right, we get people on the course and we want to make them great coaches. So, yeah, if it takes you 2 attempts to do the exam, or if it takes a person 3 attempts to do the exam, because our course isn't set up where you can just do the exam over and over again and eventually you get it right. It's not like you can do process of elimination or anything because it's written questions. It means that you've just got the opportunity to work with me, work with Ben, and eventually get your head around what it is that you're struggling with, and then you'll pass. And that's kind of how it works.
If anyone does want a little taster of what we do from a nutrition education perspective, if you go to BTN.academy, just go to our homepage, there's a little orange box, and you can do a free short course on nutrition, whether you're a coach or whether you're a member of the general public. Just drop your email in there and we'll send you a series of short seminars. They're not 2 or 3 minute nutrition videos. These are between 15 and 30 minutes where me and Tom go into a significant amount of length about how to look at nutrition, how to master it, how to look at the dynamics of coaching, how to look at behavior change, how to look at setting up a diet from a basic perspective. So if you're a bit of a geek with nutrition, do ensure you go to btn.academy and grab that freebie. Anyway, let's dive into the podcast before we deliberate too much. We haven't talked about the weather, so that's a good thing. We won't ramble on about that. I've got a little story actually to read before we get into the questions today, because I thought it was nice, and I think it's nice to hear good stories now and again. So I'm going to read this out. It's from Gary. Gary says, "Dear Ben and Tom, as you have both rightly said in individual posts in the past, this is the time of year for reflection as well as looking forward. In my current life-changing journey, I often walk very much alone, as there are very few people around me who truly understand what I am trying to achieve. As I break free from my old life into my new, it is the people who know me least who are my mentors and inspirational guides. 2 of those people are you both. So I want to truly thank you for helping me on my way and keeping me on the path I am so determined to walk. It is with your guidance and knowledge I keep learning, and your words of encouragement that keep me believing I am doing the right thing, no matter how hard and lonely it can sometimes feel. Since I met you in the summer, Ben, we discussed my main target for the next 12 months was to find a new circle of people in Hong Kong who can associate with me in this new direction I am heading. I'm pleased to let you know I've indeed increased that circle with some truly amazing teachers of the physical side of fitness. People who are just not into fitness for their own self-worth, but want to pass that knowledge and experience on to others. These are people within the gymnastic and acrobatic type of movement, with whom I train alongside my 12-year-old son. I've done a handstand this year for the first time in my life. When I began learning 5 months ago, I truly believed I was making a mistake, and there was no way I could ever get myself up onto my hands due to such poor functional range. However, within a short space of time, I was up against a wall, inverted, which was genuinely thrilling. I'm forward rolling for the first time in 35 years. I've completed a front handspring, albeit with technical assistance, and I've held myself upside down on rings, as well as turned upside down and around a gymnastics bar. These are all fairly simple movements, but for me, each step has been a massive achievement, and with each achievement, I gain more desire to keep driving forward. So gentlemen, once again, I thank you both sincerely for your guidance, your knowledge, your care, concern and inspiration to help me and others. May 2019 bring you both everything you truly desire, because you deserve more than many. My sincerest and heartfelt thanks, Gary.
Man, that's awesome.
So I suppose I wanted to read that out because, I don't know, I think in the fitness industry we can quite often get carried away with sort of the wrong stuff, the wrong goals. And, I met up with Gary ended up coming to my house, and, he just wanted to chat. He was in the area, and I was like, mate, swing by my house. I'll give you my hour of my time. We'll go walk the dog. And, Gary was living in Hong Kong. He was feeling quite lonely. And I was like, do you know what? You just need to go and find like-minded people. You need to go and join a new gym. You just need to be in a circle of other people that inspire you. And he's found that circle. He's doing some cool stuff. He's able to train with his son, so he's keeping fit and healthy, and just doing stuff that allows him to progress and gives him something to focus on. And, we've talked about kind of, depression and feeling low and unhappiness and a lack of direction. And, quite often the simplest way to break free of feeling stuck is to find things in your life that you can just put your time and energy into to find purpose. I wake up every day and I have purpose in my work, I have purpose in my relationship, I have purpose in my training, and as soon as I lose that, I try and question it straight away so that I can move forward with as minimal amount of days of friction as possible. Because, don't get me wrong, we all have days where it's a bit meh, work's a bit crap, it was a bit tough, maybe your training session was a bit meh, but if it starts to happen for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, you kind of got to stop, you've got to question it, you've got to challenge it. And I just think sometimes the real simple shifts can be the most meaningful. And for Gary, it was a case of listening to a mentor or a peer that he trusted, going and finding a new environment, involving his son, making his fitness simple. And that story you just heard sounded like it came from a very passionate man who was just doing a few new simple things. And I love that. And I think in the world of fitness, sometimes that's just enough.
Definitely, and I think what you said there about you've got to have purpose is really important. Like, there's a lot of people talking about it now. This is not our new idea or anything, but the idea that what you should try to aim for is not happiness, but purpose and meaning, and that's what actually makes life worth living. Like, that's something that's really worth thinking about, because if you do wake up and you have a reason to do the things you're doing, and the things you're doing provide you with what you would describe as meaning, then all of a sudden everything kind of falls into place. I mean, if you wanted to get a bit more sort of in depth on the topic, obviously at the minute, there's a massive problem with mental health, with both genders, but in terms of suicide, it's the biggest killer for men under 45. And while there's a huge number of reasons for that. Like, I ain't going to sit here and say that I know why it is. But I would suggest that one of the reasons why that is that people don't tend to have meaning anymore. Like, it's rare for people to have a job that provides them with meaning. Because people don't have a lot of time, they don't often have hobbies that will provide them with meaning. And so we try to, I mean, look at how many people watch fucking Love Island, for example. Like, that is people not doing meaningful stuff. That's people just doing easy stuff in an attempt to try and entertain themselves and feel a bit happier, which is perfectly understandable. But if you don't have meaning in life, it's very difficult to have any kind of satisfaction. And I would suggest that that is one of the reasons why mental health is such an issue at the minute.
I think that's why I've always tried to speak so much about kind of work and career, and people, well, I'll say the fitness industry don't often enough make these connections between like food and going to the gym and going to bed on time, but we don't make that connection between all the other stuff that we're doing in our life, like our work, like our relationship, because we go to work and we do that for, let's say, 8 hours a day, and we spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day with our partner. And, if those things aren't going right, that's a very quick way to lose your way with your fitness, with your nutrition. Like, if there's friction in your environment, the chances are you're maybe going to rely and comfort yourself with food or alcohol. You're going to stay up late watching TV rather than going to bed. And it's like this vicious cycle just ensues. And how often do we see someone have a life moment? And I mean, I was speaking to someone this morning on Instagram, and they were talking about going into surgery, and they had surgery and they were then at home for a month in rehab. They couldn't really move. They had to just rest, basically. And this really threw them. Like, they were out of their normal environment. They couldn't go to the gym. And I was quite frank with this person, and I said, you have no plan. Like, you just let the surgery happen, and then all of a sudden you're at home, and now you're wondering why you're frustrated. Like, I'll be honest, if I'm going to go into surgery next week and I'm going to be out of action for a month, right now I'm already going to be planning what I'm going to be doing next month. Right, I've got a month at home, I'm literally bedbound, what am I going to do? And I'd probably go onto Amazon and buy a load of books that I want to read. I'd probably find a couple of box sets that actually I really want to watch and I just haven't had the time to watch it. I'll probably develop a new idea. Maybe I'll even write a book. Like, maybe I'll do some hobbies and crafts that allows me not to move much. Like, for example, I love ceramics, but I never do it. So actually, perhaps it's that time that I go and buy a box of clay and I sit down and make a range of really shit pots for my for my kitchen and stuff. But it's like, I'd always see it as an opportunity to do something different, to have a plan. Yes, I can't go to the gym. Yes, I can't do loads of things that I would normally do and I would normally use to have a sense of purpose and satisfaction. But there are other things that I can find purpose and satisfaction in. It's just I don't think people really sit down and just plan for every occasion. And it's kind of like the conversations myself and Tom have had many times before, where we've kind of looked at the weekend where people sort of end up kind of over binging, overeating, over drinking. And it's because we don't often have a plan. Like, if you're going out tonight, let's say it's Saturday night, and you're going to have a couple of drinks and have a big, high calorie meal, you either go into that scenario accepting that you're going to drink and eat whatever you want and you're fine with that, there's no guilt, or you say, right, I don't really want that to affect my body composition, my weight, my health. How do I manage it? How do I mitigate it? So you make a plan, right? You change a couple of your meals. You maybe make a plan to manipulate your dietary intake on Sunday. It's about always looking ahead and planning. And I think the more you get caught up in life and don't have a moment where you just sit there and take stock, you're not able to see into the future and plan for that. And then you get sort of carried away into it. And then all of a sudden you're in that place where you're like, oh my God, I've put on half a stone. I'm feeling crappy, yada, yada, yada. And I think I've lost the point of which we started, but hopefully some of that sunk in somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think planning becomes a habit as well. Like, you do get better at it over time. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the best person at planning things. Like, I'm not the most organised person, although I am getting better. But as you say, like, if I've got a long weekend, like just recently we just had a bank holiday, like, I thought about what I wanted to do on those 3 days off, because it's 3 days off, and the the worst thing in the world is when you get a weekend or a few days off work and you haven't thought of what you're going to do. And you can sit there and you can say, well, oh, I like to be spontaneous, but is that actually true? Or do you just like it that sometimes when you're spontaneous, you come up with good ideas that you could have planned ahead of time and you could have had those good ideas more often because you haven't just left it to chance? And I think that's definitely something worth looking at. The other thing that I thought was interesting there as well, though, was when you were saying how you couldn't, like in your example of making shit pots at home, you couldn't do the thing that would usually give you meaning, so you found something else. I think sometimes this conversation about finding meaning, and it can go down the route of you need to find a job that gives you meaning, or you need to find a career that makes you meaning. And the simple fact is that most people of my generation, of our generation, don't have careers. You have jobs. Like it's a very, very fortunate person that really does and get up in the morning and gets to go to a job that they enjoy. Like I think that I'm in a very fortunate position to be doing a job that gives me meaning. A lot of people don't do that. Like you ain't going to get meaning if you're on the checkout at Tesco's. But there are still things that you can do. Like you can look at making sure that your hobbies or the stuff that you do outside of work gives you meaning. Or you could just, I mean, this is a tip from Jordan Peterson, you could just make it your purpose and your meaning to be the best damn cashier at Tesco's that there's ever been. And you'll probably find that actually if you try to be the best person on the shift, you can be the most friendly, you can make it your meaning in your checkout job to just improve everybody that comes to your tills day. And you'll probably find that you end up getting promoted and you get a better job that gives you meaning anyway. But even if you don't, at least then it's not the case that life's just happening to you. I think when life starts happening to you and you're just present, that's when problems start to come in. If you do take charge and think, right, this is the situation, I can either just be in it or I can take control of it in some small way. I think that taking of control in some small way just adds that ability for you to take meaning out of whatever situation you find yourself in. And much like the story that you read out, it doesn't have to be big changes. It doesn't have to be big things to completely change your subjective experience of life.
I did a talk a little while ago to a group of 19-year-old kids, and they were all trying to find their way in life, thinking about what they needed to do, the careers that they wanted to go in. And I was asking them questions like, what do you want to do? And they were like, oh, I want to work in IT. And I was like, well, what does working in IT mean? Is it app? Is it software? Is it hardware? Is it project management? And a lot of the answers were like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And, many career-based people might be like, oh, well, you need to know. You need to have an idea of this. And I love what Tom's just said, because my response to them was, whatever you go and do tomorrow, try and be the best at it. Because when you try and be the best at something, it flips your mindset in a way that you're open to trying to find as much enjoyment as possible from all those little things that you have to do. So if you're working at Tesco's doing the checkout aisle and you're sitting there going, this job's shit, I fucking hate people, oh, my manager's a retard, like all of this stuff. Like you're not going to see enjoyment in anything because your head is so buried in this dark hole of hatred for everything. You won't even see the moments in your day that could have actually brought you a lot of joy. But if you sat there in the checkout aisle, as Tom said, and said, I'm going to be the best person, like how much enjoyment do you think you would bring to your own day by actually just being happy yourself? And maybe 80% of the people that you served that day, you were so positive to them that it lifted their day. And actually, instead of making everyone else's day miserable 100 times over, you lifted 80 people and put a smile on their face. Or you're able to have a conversation with someone which completely changed your day because you helped someone problem solve. Or actually, you were so good at your cashier job that your manager came up to you and went, fuck, I'm really impressed with you today. You've literally gone 20% up on your checkout time compared to all your peers. How would you like to be a team leader? And then all of a sudden you go from team leader to store leader and that's kind of my point. And it's like everyone in life loves to see progression. We go to the gym. What do we tend to get enjoyment out of in the gym? It's progression. No one likes going in the gym and lifting 100 kilos every week, week on week. You get bored as shit. You don't feel you're doing anything. So if in our job or whatever we're doing, we're like, I'm going to be the best at this. You then find enjoyment, and then you're like, well, I'm motivated to keep trying this because I'm working my way up the ladder. We've got, or we did have, sorry, she's just graduated. We had an academy student called Robin Lee. And I'm sure she won't mind me telling this story because she's a legend. I've been on her podcast. She's doing amazing things. But when I first met her, she worked in Lidl. And, she worked in Lidl, and then she ended up being store manager, then regional manager. And, on the face of it, if someone went, I work in Lidl, you'd probably go, great, that's fun. Like, you're going to be interesting to talk to. And then she started telling me about her job and how dynamic it is and like the targets that they set themselves and what the business is trying to do. And I was like, hang on, this is interesting. But she is of the mindset that I'm working in Lidl and I'm going to do the best that I possibly can. And because she had that mindset, she kept moving forward. And then she did our Practical Academy course. And then she went on to set up like a nutrition coaching business. And then it keeps sort of pivoting. And it feels like she's constantly moving in her business because she's just so positive about moving forward and finding new opportunities. And she seems to be genuinely loving life. I think she's now doing executive coaching for people. So, she's probably charging, ridiculous amounts of money to coach people that really want her coaching because her energy is amazingly infectious and positive, and people want to pay good money for that. And I know that's a very random story, but it's a story of someone that went into a job with so much optimism to develop themselves. They're now at a place 5 years later, less than 5 years, because I probably met her 3 years ago on a retreat in Spain. She came out, and then like 3 years later, she's completely changed her life. She's traveling around the world. She's doing all cool sorts of stuff. And I think if most people, hand on heart, said, oh, I'd love to make that transition over the course of the next 3 years, I think most people would say, I'd be happy to invest that time, because actually 3 years isn't that long a period of time. And I just think that's another beautiful story, but it only came about by someone seeking to get opportunity in everything that they do.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Robin, what you said there about Robin's infectious enthusiasm is definitely true. Like, she'll make me smile when I talk to her, which is it's a hard thing to do. But no, I've been on our podcast twice, and if you haven't listened, Positively Selfish podcast, you can find it on Spotify and all sorts. It's definitely worth listening to. But no, I think that idea of you create your own luck, and if you try and you seek out opportunities and you'll find them, like, it's become quite trite and cliche because it's been said so often, but it doesn't make it any less true. Like, if you seek out opportunities, you will eventually find one. It might take you 3 years, but you will eventually find one. And I think it's when you start to, as you say, you just become ingrained in the thought process of, this is shit, don't want to be doing this, instead of going, right, I'm going to try and be better at this, I'm going to make this more meaningful, and then something good will come of it. And because I don't hate where I am anymore, that is when the opportunities are going to come around where I won't have to be here anymore. It's almost the same as that whole thing when people are looking for relationships and people are like, well, you can't find somebody that'll love you if you don't love yourself first, or you won't find a long-term partner while you're looking for one. You'll find a long-term partner when you're not looking. And it's the same principle. Like, if you don't like the situation that you're in and it's your job, for example, if you just mired in negativity, you'll probably still be in that job in 10 years' time, still hating it. But if you start to look at it in a more positive light and see it as the opportunity that it is, even if it is working a checkout in Tesco's or you work in McDonald's or whatever, then you could be in 3 years' time in a completely different situation by just tackling it, I guess.
The amazing thing about having that mindset generally about life is it makes you, I'm going to be direct and say, it makes you nice to be around. Like, people that are constantly seeing the world as a problem and, not able to see opportunity and growth in anything that they do, like, it's tough to be around. Like, we've all been in meetings where we've been around people that are just complaining about things and not seeing, the opportunity, and you're just like, whoa. But as soon as you sit in a room and, Tom mentioned Robin, like, I've sat many times with Robin and I'm like, I could sit here with you for 10 hours because you're just so positive. You want to look at the opportunity. You want to grow. Yeah, you might be in pain and there might be some frustration right now when you're trying to work through it, but you're doing it in a positive way. There's opportunity there, and I just think that's fucking cool.
Yeah, I think there's an Eric Cartman quote where he's just like, nobody likes being around people that complain all the time. And I think, like, it's Eric Cartman, but it's really true. Like, if people complain all the time, it can be tough work to be around. I mean, yes, you do get the people that have got a dry sense of humour. Think of Troy, for example. Troy complains quite a lot, but he does it in a funny way because I don't actually think he is a negative person. If you really dig down, he just pretends to be. And yeah, it does just it becomes hard work. And I also think if you do start looking for opportunities, you just become more interesting. And it's nice to feel like an interesting person sometimes, rather than being the person in the room that's always trying to get energy off of other people. Like, if you can bring energy to a room, you'll feel better when you walk into it in the first place.
Who was I talking to? I was talking to James Clear on the podcast about habits. And we were talking about our passion for learning about a huge amount of things. Like, people would see me as a nutrition guy. And while that is true to an extent, I have a huge hunger for learning about leadership, about fitness, about business, about finances, about relationships, because I feel it starts to infect everything in your life. And actually, I find so many different things interesting because I think it helps me broaden my perspective. And the reason why I bring this up is, like, so many people see lots of stuff as uninteresting to other people, but I think it's quite often how you view it. So, I might sit down in this scenario with Robin and, we're talking about Lidl and the checkout. Well, she would talk about it in a way where she'd be like, did you know in the Lidl checkout, like, this happens and this happens, and the reason why they stack the food and do all that stuff and don't put proper signs up and all the rest of it is because this happens, and, like, their business model is this. And I'm sitting there with my mouth open because she views it in such an interesting way and sees it as different, whereas people that close their mind off to something being interesting will always find things uninteresting and be unable to make things sound interesting to other people. And it's like, I could sit there for an hour and talk about the intricacies of the Lidl checkout with Robin because she sees, like, interest in all these different facets in the way that she views them. And I know I'm going off on a load of different tangents, but I think when we look at our job, we quite often always see our job as a bit like boring or whatever. But I'd like to think if people sat down with me, only for 5 minutes, I'd kind of sort of infect you a little bit with my passion for something like nutrition or fitness or why I would do it. And that's why I like to talk about fitness and nutrition in the way that I do, because I want people to see the interest in it. Like, people have viewed for a long time nutrition as this, oh, you need to eat chicken, broccoli and rice, and crisps are bad, and you shouldn't drink alcohol, and you need to do this. We've viewed it as something really boring, but I want to make nutrition sound interesting. If I can make it sound interesting and fun and exciting and connect it to, like, a higher purpose, then you're more likely to be interested in it. And I think that's why I'm assuming people are listening to this podcast, and what I'm saying is because I have a different dialogue on nutrition. I'm not just talking about what's good and what's bad and what's unhealthy and what's not. It's about the bigger picture around nutrition and fitness.
Definitely. And I think it's about the bigger picture around other things as well. I mean, as you say, I'm also that type of person where I just find, like, I find everything interesting. Like, if you show me something, like, it doesn't matter what your job is. If you tell me what your job is, I'll find a question because I'll want to know something. And yeah, as you say, if you view life and if you view things as being interesting things that you can learn about, all of a sudden things do become more interesting because there's always a detail there that you don't know. And if you don't know it, that makes it by definition interesting. You just need to think of it that way, I suppose.
It's like you've got into archery for the last year or so, and before I wouldn't have even thought of archery as something remotely interesting. But when you come down to, like, my house or we meet up or whatever and you start talking about it, I'm like, that's interesting. But it's because of your passion and your interest in it and the way that you describe it. And I think that's cool. It's like you've engaged me in something I would just literally never even think twice about.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those sports where it just keeps going as well. So I've only ever done Western archery, and I've just bought an Eastern archery bow. So the new bow that I've got is from Mongolia, and it's a completely different way of shooting that I can't do at all, and I'm shit at it. But that's why I've taken that up, because it's interesting. And I think any person, I mean, even when you look at people who are like stamp collectors, if people still do that, or coin collectors or whatever, I reckon if you sat down with someone who collects ancient coins, you could have an interesting conversation about their hobby, because they're passionate about it and because they will make it interesting.
And so when we look at something like stamp collecting, when I was younger, I'd probably go, "Oh, why is stamp collecting interesting?" And it's like, it's not the action of collecting stamps; it's the action of this little square bit of paper resembling maybe something really iconic in the world. So there's this stamp, and did you know that this stamp was once created by this person off the back of this war, because this happened, and the stamp price increased to whatever because of this thing that happened in the economy. And then all of a sudden you're like, that's why you collect stamps. And it's like there's so much meaning and context between so much in the world, and perhaps we're almost out of practice with all of this because we're so used to living life on the highlight reel or on the surface because of social media, because of Google. Like, now if I've got a question, I can put it into Google and it now comes up in that top little box. Like, I don't even have to go into a blog page anymore or a wiki article. Like, it's literally been taken out by Google and put in the box. So like, information is so easy to find now, and I wonder if that takes some of the enjoyment and exploration out of the things that we're trying to explore, because things are so accessible now that we literally miss the context of so much, and it just kind of can quickly and easily lose its magic.
Definitely. I think items are another thing that lose their magic. Like, if I'm going to buy something, I would try to buy something that was handmade by a person, because it then means you can have an interesting conversation with the person about the thing that you're buying. So say I'm going to buy a new bow, or looking around, I've got a knife here that I've made because I spoke to someone else that told me how they made a knife and it was interesting, so I had to go. I think there's just so many things that become mundane because machines make them and the feeling is taken out of them. And if you have the opportunity to buy a handmade something, like, have a conversation with the person that made it, because they'll probably make it more interesting than it was in the first place, just by being passionate enough about that thing to take the time to make one.
So Tom, we went off on a 37-minute tangent.
Yeah, we haven't got to a single question again. Mate, we're shit at podcasting.
Yeah. Whoever. Why do you listen to us? Like, what are you doing right now? Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this show, and I'll tell you what, we should probably wrap up this show, if I'm honest.
Yeah, we will do a Q&A show next time, honest.
Yeah, we will, and we have got some great questions as always, and we'll make a mental note not to ramble so much last time. We won't promise anything, to be honest, because you never know what's going to happen, but hopefully these are quite often the best shows where we just explore something that means a lot to us, that can hopefully add value to where you're at right now. And I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago which was about me struggling to get out of bed. And it was a case of me talking about what I'm passionate about right now, that there is maybe one or two things that have friction in my life, and I was just really honest about it. And again, loads of people reached out to me on social media and said, do you know what, really appreciated that, kind of feel the same. And again, I think if me and Tom can keep being honest and passionate and exploring what we feel people are struggling with, because me and Tom speak to 10, 20, 30, 40 different people on social media every day. We engage with students in our academy communities. Like, we're always talking and we're seeing the trends and the things that people are picking up on. So hopefully if we can stay relevant and we can start to, keep picking up on these things that other people seem to be struggling with, then hopefully we will bring you meaning on this show. And as ever, thank you for listening to this show. If you'd like to support it, maybe share it on social media, share it with a friend, write a review for us on social media. And as we discussed at the beginning of the show, if you'd like to get some free help and learn some cool stuff about nutrition, do head on over to the BTN.academy website and download the freebies in the orange box and get some cool education. But yeah, otherwise, Tom, we're done.
We're done. Thanks for listening again, everyone. It was a bit rambly, but it's always appreciated that you listen. So.
Yes, right. I will be with an incredible guest next week. You will have me on the Short Express Monday show. Otherwise, go and have an awesome day. Goodbye.